Good morning, everybody. So it is New Year's Eve, morning of. I am in a hotel room, as you can see, and I saw that Nicocado Avocado dropped a video last night about Stephanie Sue, and it's actually a topic I wanted to talk about. Like, look, I don't get involved in people's dramas, and I don't really know either of them, but I do have some experience with manipulation and gaslighting. And I thought it would be worth sharing my experience with you guys because I really believe that Stephanie Sue is telling the truth. Okay, so before anybody comes for me, remember I'm a recovery channel and I only am sharing my own experience. I don't have enough facts about either of them or the entire situation to give a an overall opinion, but I'm going to tell you why I really related to Stephanie and why I am going to believe her regardless. That doesn't mean I'm going to send hate anybody's way. I'm definitely not suggesting that anybody else do. Instead, I suggest sending love to Stephanie's way. If you're going to do anything, if my video inspires you to do anything, it should inspire you to leave some love for somebody else. Never hate. You guys know I'm way against that. And I'm also really not big on drama. So, although I am a recovery channel, as you guys know, I was in a marriage for a while that didn't end great. And I watched Stephanie Sue's video. And originally I was going to add clips, but now I don't really think it's necessary. If you don't know who I'm talking about, don't worry, it's not really necessary. But Stephanie Sue and Nicocado Avocado are both mukbang channels. I'll link Stephanie's video below. But the one thing that she shared that struck me, that literally brought tears to my eyes when I watched it, was about the fear that another person can instill. And the fact is that I knew before Nick dropped his video, I knew that his video would factually explain everything. I knew that people, once they watched his video, would decide that she's exaggerating or she's not telling the truth. I knew that because I'd been in her shoes before. When I left my marriage, it was because it was emotionally and verbally abusive. And I had that same level of fear. My ex-husband used to manipulate me, mental manipulation all of the time. And he always, I never learned the term gaslighting until after I was out of my marriage. And people were like, that's what happened to you. He used to regularly tell me that I made things up. And so an example of that is I used to play softball. I wasn't all that good, but I loved it. It was fun. And I would tell him a week ahead of time, hey, I have a doubleheader softball game on Thursday. I have one game and then I have a second game. And I would tell him the day before, just reminder, I have a doubleheader softball game. And then Thursday would come and I would, leave and I'd say, don't forget, I have 2 games tonight. And I would call him after the first game and say, hey, first game's over. We're about to play our second. And he would say, without fail, you never told me you had a second game. Why are you saying now that you had a second game? Where are you really? Are you with somebody? What's his name? And I would get all upset. No, I told you, I have 2 softball games. You can come here. You can come watch me play. I'm here. And he's like, well, if that was really true, why wouldn't you just tell me ahead of time? And I'd be like, I did tell you. And he would make me feel like I was going crazy. I would feel like, did I not say that? And that's really where I related to Stephanie Sue, where she said, did I really say that? Maybe I did say that. Maybe it didn't go the way I thought it did. People who manipulate know how to do this. They make you question your own sanity. It took me a long time after I got out of that marriage to realize that I wasn't as crazy as I thought maybe I was. I questioned everything. I questioned every thought, every action, everything. And where Stephanie's lucky is that she had an experience with one person and she has a support system at home. But when I went through this was with my husband. Um, it's hard to talk about. I don't usually share too much about the abuse on this channel, but because recovery can be hard, recovery is not always a walk in the park. And sometimes, it says like change people, places, and things, and that's not always possible. It took me 2 years of knowing I was in a bad place before I was able to leave. So when people say to an abuse victim, why don't you just leave? It's sort of crushing to hear. I can't tell you why it took me 2 years to leave. I can't even really voice why I was so afraid, but I was scared. I remember after I finally did leave, I was 100% certain that this man was going to hurt me. He blamed me for everything going wrong in his life. I took his kids, I took his dog, and I thought for sure that I was going to pay for that. And I talked to the police in this. I moved states away. And I talked to the police, and they're like, I gave him his background, and I told them what had been going on, and they're like, you need to get a restraining order, because if he does come up, a restraining order allows us to respond immediately. Whereas if you don't have one, we have to wait for there to be some sort of action. It's like, you need to go, you need to do it now. So I did. And when you file a temporary restraining order, at least in New Jersey, you have to go in front of a judge, and you have to tell them why you need it. And I remember sitting in that courtroom, and I was all by myself with the judge, except there was a whole bunch of police officers, many of who I wasn't sure if my husband knew. He used to work as an EMT in that town and in that county, and I thought maybe he knew some of the police officers, so I was scared even just to talk. And it was one thing to put everything down on paper, which I had done, but to speak about it in front of a judge was horrifying. I was terrified, and again, I was alone. And I was shaking, and I was crying, and the judge said, "It's very clear to me that you're afraid, but I'm not understanding why." And I was so crushed, because I remember saying, like, I don't know. I don't know why I am. I just know. And luckily, she had a lot of experience with domestic violence cases. And she knew the right questions to ask me. And she was able to, she granted me the restraining order. But when Stephanie Sue was talking about it and talking about the being afraid and not really being able to verbalize why, that's a feeling you only go through if you go through it, right? Nick's going to have all the answers. He's going to be able to explain everything away. But I don't believe for a minute that a woman who has experienced what I went through can fake those feelings. It's hard to talk about, and I gave her a lot of credit. When she made her video, she said that she did it because she was afraid of what he would do to retaliate, and she thought if she got out ahead of it, it would be smarter for her, right? God, the guts that takes. I don't think people realize how hard it is to speak out against somebody who you're afraid of to begin with. And look, maybe Nick's a great guy. Maybe Nick's perfect. I don't know. But that girl was really afraid. And that fear was something I really resonated with me, It took a long time before I didn't react in a trauma type of way. Even in my relationship now, things would happen and it would scare me, and I would react in this trauma way. I didn't realize it was PTSD, really. It's better now. It's been over 2 years, but I remember like even my kids would react in ways. Remember my niece over poured orange juice one day. She poured it to the top of the glass and left none in the bottle, and my daughter lost it. She started to cry. She couldn't believe that my niece would pour the juice to the top and leave nothing left. That was the kind of fear that we had, right? My kids will never use the last of the milk. They always leave just enough for coffee. They do it for me now out of love, but they used to do it out of fear. You can't make up those feelings. And I'm only sharing my own experience because, as I said, I don't know the situation, but like I'm telling you as somebody who has been through that kind of fear, you can't fake it. You can't fake that. And like, of course, it's going to sound like she can't explain herself well. Of course, it's going to sound like he's got all the answers. Because somebody who's really good at manipulating knows what they're doing. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on what she said. I don't know. As I said, if you get anything from this video, it's that regardless of what you believe, like send the girl some love. Like just let her know that you care. I think we spend a lot of time trying to send hate to one person or the other, and I think it's unnecessary. I think we should be sending love to people. So even if you believe Nick, like that doesn't mean we have to do anything but share love with Stephanie. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you've ever been through anything like that. And yeah, see you next video. Hope you guys have a great New Year's Eve. Bye, guys.